Greetings, Legionnaires, and welcome to another episode of the Critical Podcast. My name is Jimmy Good, and I'm your host, and thank you for joining me on this very special episode. I called special for a few different reasons. One, it's the last one we're doing here in 2018, and another, well, I'm all by myself. I actually gave the boys the week off because, well, holiday, travel, so guess what? It's just going to be you and me. It's going to be good, though, because we got a lot to talk about still. So basically what we're going to talk about on this week's show is we have a little bit of news that I want to get into, but I also want to review 3 different things. It's like, Jimmy, are you crazy? Well, don't worry about it. I have timestamps down below, so if any of these things don't sound interesting to you, don't worry about it, because you can just hit those and it'll be totally fine. Those 3 things are Aquaman, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. The very last one I feel really bad about because I actually filmed like parts of this review and I was going to do it. It's just taken so long, and I put a lot of time into that game. So I feel like I can really speak about it right now, and I just don't think I'm going to finish it before the end of the year. So we're just going to do it this way. Sorry about this. It's been a little hectic review season. Oh my gosh, I need to get an editor. Anywho, let's talk about Men in Black. Men in Black's international trailer just came out, and also you're going to have to forgive me because I will be doing timestamps through this, because if I don't, future Jimmy, once again, you will be sad. Men in Black international trailer came out, and I want to talk about that for just a second. Men in Black, I always love to talk about kind of like my experience with a franchise, but I've seen the first 2 Men in Black movies. I never saw the third one, which was about time travel and stuff. Was Josh Brolin in that one? I don't know. Anyway, I did enjoy those movies. I also really like the theme song. And they were kind of zany, wacky. I didn't love them by any stretch. I need water and sugar water, or whatever. But I always had like a little place in my heart. I was like, this is kind of fun. This was very it felt very 90s-y to me. And now we've got this coming out with Tessa Thompson and Chris Hemsworth and Liam Neeson, which hearing his voice right away, I was like, man, you got Liam Neeson to do this? Liam Neeson's doing everything nowadays, which is totally fine. And by everything, I mean, if he's going to be in A Million Ways to Die in the West, then this is definitely a step up, at least to me. But for people who aren't familiar with the Men in Black, basically it is an organization kind of set up that's secret here on Earth to protect us and also help other aliens, kind of be here undiscovered, but then also protect us from potential threats and whatnot. So it seems like Tessa Thompson's character found the Men in Black somehow. I don't know how. She found that's kind of like the big point. She's like, I'd be perfect for this job, and she wants this job. Whatever. Then she gets to team up with Chris Hemsworth character, which this trailer, one of the biggest things that we're starting to see, Men in Black's always been kind of like an action comedy. And I think Chris Hemsworth now is just comedic. Like, I think that's just who he is now. Like, they've really started to tap into that more ever since Thor Ragnarok, and he's had a few moments in the other Avengers films and stuff and Thor, but now we're really getting just like, what if he was just, comedic all the time? Or if you saw like the most recent National Lampoon's Vacation, or that reboot or whatever they did, or no, it's like a continuation. Anyway, so yeah, I think it looks interesting. I don't know if I'd run out to see it in theaters. I want to see a little bit more, because right now this looks very like kind of jokey Mission Impossible to me. The alien stuff seems to be on the back burner, where it's just like, hey, let's put these 2 very, very gorgeous actors in really good looking suits. They look real sharp, and just have them go do anything. And also have Liam Neeson be there too. And that's fine. And I'm sure this movie is just like going to do well. Like I just, there's no way I can't see it doing well. And you look back at the past where Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones were kind of the front runners of this. So I think that's what they're trying to do, kind of, again, base it around 2 of these really well-known stars, and then they can just kind of do whatever with it. One thing I did really like about this trailer, because it kind of cuts through a lot of things. There's some, nods back to the original, especially with those, I forget those they're like little guys, but there's like 6 of them, and they all kind of like weird little accents or whatever. They're like, yeah, we're on my way, blah, blah, blah. But I really, really enjoyed the fact that the car has a ton of guns on it that you have to like put together. I thought that was really interesting, where they had to like, pull it together and like grab pieces of it, and there's like the hubcap or whatever, and then he kind of puts that as like a drum on the base of his gun for Chris Hemsworth's gun, and they're just shooting and stuff. Like, okay, that was pretty good. That made me smile and kind of chuckle a little bit. I was like, okay, I'll give him a little bit of ingenuity, and there's definitely a budget behind this movie. So yeah, I'm interested to see where they go with it, and I'm also really interested to know what you guys think, because I don't know if there's a lot of like huge Men in Black fans out there. I never thought it was like a huge franchise, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. It's just that day and age right now where I feel like we're just kind of recycling these old assets and we're either like rebooting them or just doing a continuation of them and we're just using that name recognition because that kind of gets your foot in the door. And if you have Chris Hemsworth on there and Tessa Thompson, it's like, there you go, Thor Ragnarok reunion. Boom, good. If only they had Taika Waititi directing, probably watch. Then they'll be like, he was a consult. And I'll be like, dang it, got me. Yeah. That's pretty much all I want to say for the news right now. We haven't had a lot just because it's the holiday time and it's kind of hard to drop stuff, especially the fact that they dropped Aquaman, Bumblebee, and then Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which I have not seen that one, all like pretty close to one another. It's kind of like they're doing that, and we'll just wait until 2019 to get some news. Let's hop right into the actual Aquaman review, though. So basically what I'm going to do here is, I don't even know if I'm going to flip the spoiler switch for this one. I'm going to try to do my best to keep it as spoiler-free as possible. For anyone who hasn't seen or ever heard of Aquaman in the past, I'll just give you a little brief synopsis so that way you can kind of catch up. And don't worry about it. I am wearing my Batman vs. Superman. I think this is the shirt. I don't wear it often, but this is a continuation of the DC. We used to call it EU, but it wasn't actually that. It was like Worlds of DC. Who cares? But basically, it's a follow-up to those films, and the previous film with Justice League being kind of like the main big one that had all the guys and gals. See, there's a pun in there for you. All the Gal Gadot. Anyway, all of them fight together, fight Steppenwolf, and save the world. Now, we focus on Jason Momoa's character, Arthur. Arthur is the son of both this Atlantean queen and a human fisherman / lighthouse watcher. And that's kind of how Aquaman, typically his origin is that he is just kind of he is this mix of both human and Atlantean. So you've got like this guy who could bridge the worlds, as it were. So he typically has a lot of superpowers that people don't really think about, which is too bad because Aquaman to me has always been kind of underrated. I think it was his design and just the joke that like, oh yeah, he just talks to fish. Aquaman is incredibly powerful. He's one of those guys that can go toe-to-toe with Superman because he can withstand like the crushing pressures of like deep ocean and temperatures and stuff like that. He can move really fast, especially when he's up on land and in the water. He's going to be a very quick guy. So he can fight Superman. He's not going to beat him necessarily, but he can scrap it up for a bit. In this one, we also get to see a little bit more of his fish telepathy or just kind of communicating with fish, which we have kind of teased about in the past. There's Batman always saying like, oh, you talk to fish or all that sort of thing. Yeah, he does kind of, but they don't overdo it or anything like that. So yeah, this story is basically just him coming to terms with his heritage and also the fact that his brother is actually his half-brother, Orm, who is running basically things in the ocean, as it were. Orm is trying to basically take over the entire ocean and attack the land and just take over the whole planet because, he sees us as humans as just like horrible. We're polluting, we're dumping toxic waste in there. We're just a nuisance and we should be dealt with. So basically what happens is you have these people come and they're like, hey, I believe more so Mera, I think it's Mera, something that will plague me. Mera, who is actually the daughter of one of the other kind of leaders in I shouldn't say Atlantis, but in the ocean, who he comes up and says to him like, hey, we need you to come down here. You are the firstborn son of our queen. You need to come back and be the king because your brother, who is basically taking the throne right now, is going to try and unite or basically destroy all of the other tribes down in the ocean. And then they're going to group together and come and kill everyone on the surface. So you have to come with us. So basically you get this kind of almost like reverse Black Panther story where he's kind of like the Killmonger or it's like he's kind of Aragorn from Lord of the Rings. It's like, I'm no king. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be king. And then finally it's like, okay, fine, I'll do this. But it also has this action adventure vibe to it, which I wasn't expecting. There's a lot of like travel around, not only underneath the water in the ocean, but also on the surface. And there is a lot of stuff going on in this movie. It is just action sequence after action sequence after action sequence. And one of the on-running jokes seems to be when like something dramatic is like about to happen between two characters, whatever that might be, there's an explosion. This happens like 3 or 4 times, and it's really funny because it's like the first time I'm like, okay. The second time I'm like, this is a thing. I think like the third time or fourth time I was thinking, they know that this is a joke. Like every time something like, we figured it out. Boom. Like, it's just always like an explosion. Yeah, but I really enjoyed it for a film that was as long as this one, and it's about 2 hours and 20 minutes or so, 2 hours 19 or something. It moves at a pretty brisk pace, and it gives you a lot of information. You don't have to have watched any of the DC movies before this to actually get a feel for it, because there's like 1 or 2 lines here or there where they kind of reference stuff in the past. But there's not a lot of like, oh, Batman, oh, Superman, oh, Wonder Woman. There's none of that, even though at times you think maybe you should call one of them in to help you out with this new problem. I don't know. Jason Momoa's Aquaman. I don't know. Yeah, but I want to talk about the things I really enjoy about this film, besides the fact that it moves at a pretty quick pace. I really like Jason Momoa. He's still pretty bro-y, and by that, I mean there's a lot of like, he'll make like a pee joke, or he'll just be like, yeah, well, I can, my dad can drink really well. He drinks better than me, even though I can, breathe underwater. It's like, yeah, I get it. And like, there's a lot of just like kind of lumberjack, like kind of my buddy watching football with a couple of beers. And I get it because it makes him relatable to some degree. And that's something that's really important because, again, Aquaman, one of the biggest problems I think facing that character always has been is that when you see him, you're like, okay, so he's this dude in like yellow or orange and green, and he's just like, I am the king of Atlantis or whatever, and I'm the king of water and all the ocean and all those animals underneath. It's like, oh, okay, weird. But this one, they do a really good job of just like saying, hey, he's a normal dude, just like everybody else. He just happens to be half Atlantean, which doesn't necessarily mean he's any weaker than any of those other ones. Actually, in a lot of ways, he's just way stronger, like way stronger. Yeah, I do like Jason Momoa. I like his relationship with Mira. I like Mira too. She does a pretty good job kind of being his accomplice and love interest, but she's kind of the Hermione Granger of the team, where she's just so intelligent. And she's got some really cool abilities that her ability to manipulate water, which is her superpower, despite having all the same powers as, mostly as every other Atlantean, where they can swim underwater and breathe underwater, all that stuff. But yeah, she's the one who's kind of thinking up stuff. She can memorize things. She's a really good companion to have on an adventure, But they have pretty good chemistry too, which could have fallen really flat and been really forced. And they don't really force it down your throat too much. It is a very corny popcorn flick, though. Corny popcorn flick. It makes sense, but you have to expect the moments where, like, she'll fall off something and he'll catch her, and they're both kind of like, oh, or they'll hold hands for like a second. It's like, oh, it's that sort of thing. So in some respects, maybe it does seem a little pushed on you, but when they talk to each other and the relationship they form, it starts to be pretty evident that their relationship isn't so far-fetched, which I enjoy. Also, this movie's crazy in so far as the budget goes. So it feels like this movie, there's a lot of money there. I looked it up, and for what they were reporting at the time of this recording, it was $160 million, which seems like crazy numbers anyway. But if you look at something else like Justice League, which was apparently after reshoots like 300, that's nuts. This movie does so much with what it has visually, with the CGI. Like, they use it so well. There's some really bad computer stuff in this movie. There's like once in a while where you like see a person or like a boat and it looks like garbage. But the bioluminescence, a lot of the characters, the way they move underwater, their hair, like they have capes underwater, all of that looks so good. And it's like, how did you do this with like people talking underwater and like swimming around each other? It's so well done. James Wan really needs to be congratulated for directing this, and everyone who was on the technical aspect, because like I said, there's a few like things here and there where I'm like, oh, that's not so great. But the rest of it's like really, like the majority of it looks so good. It's like, wow, how did you pull this off? And the creature designs of all the scary things and all the cool things, it's very much like, if you've ever played or heard of like Total War Warhammer, it's a lot like that, where they have these big armies eventually of just like crazy creatures. There's like crazy crabs and like sharks and crocodiles and like these big monsters. And so like, wow, it looks really good. It looks really good, which is nice because this movie embraces its comic book heritage. It's not like dark and gritty. It's like, no, man, they like, it feels like a real comic book movie. It really does. It's very colorful, very vibrant, very fun. It's fun. It's the first time besides like maybe Wonder Woman where I came out of it and I was like, that was pretty fun. Justice League had its moments where they tried to do that, but this one consistently has that. And I think it should be lauded for that because that's something that we haven't seen in these movies a lot of yet. So it's like, okay, good. You guys, like, I want DC to get it because I feel like there's like, it's like Wonder Woman, Justice League, and it's like Aquaman, and it's like Suicide Squad 2 or what, whatever's next. It's like, I don't like the fact that they just can't seem to hit it like 2 in a row. Just hit like 2 or maybe 3 in a row. That'd be great. Yeah, but there's so much to really digest here because the movie itself is on such a crazy scale. It's hard to comprehend sometimes just because you'll go to these massive underwater circumstances or areas, but then also you'll go to the surface and then you'll see these Atlanteans come up with all these like pieces of armor that are real armor. And like, you just look at the design of it and you say, man, they spent time doing this. It had kind of that Lord of the Rings vibe where there were people making these things that felt real and tangible. So they used as much real stuff as I think they possibly could, which is like, congratulations, you're finally starting to get it. Like, use CGI to enhance or do things that you just can't physically do when there's certain characters that you're like, we just can't do prosthetics on this one. Also, it's like underwater, so I don't even know how they did all this. But just the armor, seriously, look at the armor on all these guys, especially Orm. His stuff looks so freaking good. And I don't know if it must be CGI enhanced because he eventually puts a helmet on and it's like, wow, it looks like he's popping out of the comic book. It's so good. Fight scenes are pretty good, kind of what you'd expect, kind of Star Warsy in that like the big battle sequences are just like a lot of explosions and things going on, or Lord of the Ringsy where you're kind of a lot of people fighting kind of melee style, but it's a mix of those two things, and that's really cool to me. So if you take Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and smash them together and put it underwater, it's like that's kind of what this gets to sometimes, and that is a-okay with me. I love it. Some of the other characters besides Aquaman and Mera that I do want to touch on quick. Willem Dafoe is in this movie. I love Willem Dafoe, but mostly because he was a Green Goblin. He's fine. He acts as kind of this advisor to Orm, or also this kind of teacher to Arthur when he was younger. And he's just fun to see in this movie. I like him. Dolph Lundgren's in it. He's not great, but then again, it's Dolph Lundgren, and I've never taken him as like a serious actor. Like I'm sorry if you love Dolph Lundgren, but he is actually Mira's father, the king of one of the different kind of tribes in the ocean. He's fine. Orm, though, does a really good job. I don't know the actor's name, but he did a very good job. I liked him because not only was he someone I could kind of like, I could see being the king because he had this charisma about him when he kind of was like showing off to the crowds or kind of leading his army. You could see why people followed him, and then you can also understand eventually why he did what he needed to do or what he was wanting to do. He's also very power hungry, so he kind of has that little like one-dimensional villain aspect to him where it's like he just wants power to have power, blah blah blah. But there's more to him than that, thankfully. Yeah, I don't know, this film is not bad, which is great. I think if I had to rate it, like an official review like I would do, and this is kind of what this is going to be in place of, I would say it's at an 8.5. It's not perfect. There's, some things where they could get a little bit better maybe, but overall, I just had a good time with it. It wasn't something where I walked out, I was like, wow, that was incredible. But I walked out of it smiling and I felt content. And it was nice because I remember walking out of like Suicide Squad and thinking, oh my God, like, like, oh, what is this horribleness? But there seems to be a love here and also kind of a reverence for the character. Like even in the beginning, like title card for Aquaman, like it's a bunch of fish coming together to make his name, which he could do. He could like, he could tell them to do that. And it's like, they didn't have to do that, and they did it. And there's like a lot of little things like that. Or Black Manta, who is this kind of side villain that I really enjoy because he's kind of like the C version of Deathstroke. Like he's kind of like a tech villain. The look of him and just watching him fight was so cool for me. I was like, man, this is just like a comic book come to life. That's what these movies should be, and they should have been. And it's just nice to not have a big, dumb, gray villain at the end. Orm does kind of wear some dark stuff, but he's not like a giant gray villain who just like just yells and tries to kill everybody. Yeah, he does try to kill everybody a little bit, though. He's a little murder happy, just a smidge. I will say this, though, the ending was a little bit different than I had thought, but in a good way. It wasn't the classic ending that you would think a lot of these movies tend to go down, where it's like, pretty typical, and you're like, okay, I can see where this is going. Obviously, a lot of the other stuff you could kind of tell like where the plot was leading, because it's that classic like the hero's journey to becoming like what they were meant to be. So yeah, I would recommend it. I would definitely say see this in theaters if you have the chance. If you have a passing fancy in anything superhero, I think you would enjoy this. If you are a DC fan, you should totally see it. If you are a Marvel fan, you should see this movie, because this is the most Marvel that I've seen, like, kind of movie in a long time. And this is kind of like what I wanted Thor to become, now that I think about it. Thor and Aquaman have a lot of similarities. And one thing that I really feel like we never got to was like a fun, big battle sequence with multiple armies that wasn't kind of like too Lord of the Ringsy. In the beginning of Thor: The Dark World, they kind of have one. Yeah, they do. They kind of have one or two, but it's not like fun. It's not like crazy. It's not like they really got to go all out with it. But this movie really just is like, creature design is incredible. James Wan really did a good job. Even has a little bit of his kind of signature horror in there, just a little bit for one sequence. Also, Nicole Kidman, I can't forget her. Nicole Kidman's in there. And, okay, I'm looking this up because it's going to bother me if I don't know these names. And people are like, Jimmy, you didn't even say their names. Nicole Kidman, and I call him Jango Fett, from the old Everybody's Favorite. You know what I'm talking about? Star Wars, Attack of the Clones. Where is it? It's killing me. Patrick Wilson was Ocean Master. Okay. Yeah, he's good. I like him. Where is he? Tom Curry. Is that who it is? Oh, that's who he plays, is Tom Curry. Tamura Morrison. That's who I'm thinking of. I like him a lot. He's pretty good. He's a pretty good actor. I liked his story, and I liked his relationship with Nicole Kidman, because he plays Arthur's father. She plays his mother. There you go. I'm still trying to think of like a big detriment to the film. Yeah, once in a while, some kind of crummy CGI. I mean, pretty straightforward as far as many plot things go. I will say it was nice to see Jason Momoa get to act a little more in some of these scenes where it's a little more emotional. He's not like full out bawling and crying, but there's a few times when he actually gets to show like distress, which I think we haven't seen so much of yet, which I enjoyed. But yeah, it's fun. It's just a fun movie. Like, you just go see it. It's good. I recommend it. Not perfect, again, and I wish I could say there's something specific where I could say, ooh, yeah, that. But there's just a few times where it got a little wonky with some of the CG stuff, and I was kind of like you're trying. And they just really did as much as they possibly could. But there are so many set pieces in this movie. It's very Indiana Jones, which is another big compliment for me. It's just like one thing after another, just doom, just like, oh yeah, we got out of the pyramid, now we're on top of the plane, like in Raiders of the Lost Ark. And this one, it's just like, oh yeah, we escaped like this Black Manta attack, and now we're going to like go into this creepy, dark, like terror-infested waters, like, stuff like that. So just moving. So yeah, but I want to know what you guys think. Please let me know what you thought of Aquaman in the comments below. If you have seen it, if you haven't seen it, please let me know too if you have any questions, because I would love to answer them for you. Yeah, man, Aquaman. Which, by the way, I told this to Joe the other night. So hopefully by the time Joe is, back on the show, he'll have seen it. But he was refreshed, because as people who've listened to the show regularly will attest to, that Joe, Levi, and probably myself to some degree were like, I'm not sure about this, because they showed that extended trailer a while ago for this film. I was like, they show like 5 minutes of this thing? That usually doesn't bode well. But it's tracking pretty well. And I'm really hoping that this is just like a big success for DC, because I want DC to do well, because I want them to fight with Marvel, and I want there to just be this kind of back and forth. I don't want Marvel to get fat and happy after all the Infinity War and Endgame stuff. So I want DC to do well, and I want them to like get rewarded in a way for making something that is not just the same dark sadness that they've been doing up until this point. Yeah, that would be great. Let's move on, though. Let's first talk about Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is a game that I really enjoy. I'll be honest right now with you guys, though. I have not played the online, so I will just right up front. I've heard there are issues with it. Uh, I've also heard issues in different ways where it can be like connectivity that they're saying you should probably get an Ethernet connection. I have one of those for playing because wireless might not work as well. Like any fighting game, probably shouldn't do that. But also, if you don't commit to the time on there, you'll probably just get messed up. So not really kind of something I look forward to. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, like we've talked about in the past, I'm a big Super Smash Bros. Fan. You can see Ness over here, and I've got the original 12 and a picture over here that was a gift a while ago. I love Super Smash Bros. It is my favorite game on the Nintendo 64, hands down. Loved it. It was like the true epitome of that console to me. Also, the 4-player co-op, like local. I mean, does it get any better? Like, oh my gosh. And then Melee. Everybody loved Melee. Melee was a great game. Fox looked a little weird in that game, but I love everything else. Mewtwo's in that game. So good. Brawl, I enjoyed. I liked making my levels. I liked how Fox looked in that game. And, you know, a lot of people were angry that Brawl wasn't as technical as Melee. I think I skipped the one on Wii U. I played a little bit of it at Levi's, but I didn't have a Wii U because only 5 people did, and I was not one of the 5. But I picked this one up because I love Smash Brothers, and it looked really good to me. And this is what got me into having a Switch, because now I have a Switch. And yeah, I like it. I think technically it is kind of close to Melee. It might not be like pinpoint accurate like Melee was, because Melee was perfect, you know, or whatever that is. But it feels incredibly good, you know, playing through this and playing all these characters and feeling how they, you know, control differently. But it feels right. And I know that doesn't really help too much when you're like, okay, how does that control? How does it like feel? You know, I try to translate that idea to you. But each character has a certain sense of weight and power behind all of their moves and everything they do. And it translates so well, and you can know right away, even if you've never played this game before, how your character is going to move. So for instance, if you have King DDD, who's one of my personal favorites, you look at him, he's a big dude with a big hammer. Is he moving really fast? Probably not. Like, you know, but his attacks are going to hit pretty freaking hard, especially his smash attacks, which once in a while you just get that right, you hit him with the hammer. Oh man, the hammer. Ooh. But then on the other hand, you have like Marth or Fox. You look at them, you're like, all right, Lith, I bet they're going to move pretty fast. They're not going to hit as hard, but they can move around really quickly, which is usually the characters I kind of gravitate towards. So yeah, Super Smash Bros. There's so much in this game, but before we get to what they do have, I do want to mention things that they don't have, because I didn't talk about this in my review in progress. So in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, there's a few modes that they're missing. One of them being Break the Targets, which I loved. If you ever check out like the original Smash and the subsequent ones, you could play through these little missions where you actually got to like break the targets with your characters. And not only was this kind of like a fun little thing to do just on the side, it also taught you how to use your characters more efficiently. So for instance, if you're playing as young Link, I think it was in Melee. I think Melee is where he showed up. You have this like one where you have to dodge through, you're like throwing your bomb and stuff, but it also like requires that you get good at the boomerang and especially the bow, because you have to land these perfect like little shots in a certain amount of time. You're basically trying to go for these types of like, you know, timed score attack things, which it seems stupid, but to me it was always a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And it just kind of made you more intelligent or more aware of what your character could do. And I think that's a big deal in this game, because there's a lot of nuance to each character that if you're not familiar with them, you totally forget. So for instance, like I was playing through a lot of this, the World of Light mode, which is kind of the big story mode with Marth, and I totally forgot about his over B combos. He's got these over B combos where you can like attack in like 3 different ways and then end the combo with like a slash on the ground, or you can do like a slash up. There's like a bunch of things you can do with that. I totally forgot about that, because it's like usually in those modes, it's like, oh yeah, you got to use those, you know. Or Samus, for instance, she has an over B, which is a missile. That is usually like either you can do like a hard over B and she shoots it off like it's like a fast. And this one has like a delay now, because it used to go just right away, but it has a delay and it goes really fast. Or you just hold over a little bit and hit B, and then it's like a seeking missile. It doesn't go as fast or as far, but it can like kind of follow someone. Different uses for different scenarios. That stuff's really cool to me. And that's usually what that kind of break the targets mode was all about, is kind of saying like, hey, you know what, here is a level where you have to jump around and break these targets in these little rooms, and it's specific to these characters. I wish it were still here. The other thing that is missing for me that was a bigger deal, and it's not the biggest deal, I'd rather have some break the targets or smash the targets, is the home run contest. You used to be able to like beat up the punching bag, and then you'd hit it with like a baseball bat, or if you're Ganondorf, you just kind of punch, you super punch, like your Falcon Punch, and you could see how far you could get it. And it was dumb, but it was a lot of fun, especially with a friend, because you could like co-op it. You'd get into like this little area, like a tube, and you're like in an arena, you're like punching it, so it's like banging off these little walls. Then finally, when the time, like after 5 seconds or 6 seconds or whatever, then you could hit it, and then it would fly. You'd just be like, oh my gosh, and you'd see like the little meter tick up, and you're like, okay, how can we do that better? Like you'd sit there with like Fox, or like, yeah, it'd be Fox and Falco, and you're just like shooting it, and then one of you hits it with like the baseball bat. And it's like, yeah, I miss that sort of thing. But that's okay, because there's still so much to do. The main thing to do in this game right away is the World of Light mode. That is kind of the primary thing they kind of push on you, and that is the story mode, more or less, kind of like your subspace emissary for anybody who played Brawl, which I would say I missed that bit more, because I thought it was better in the fact that you got those cinematics where you get the characters teaming up, and I always enjoyed that. They don't have that here. It's kind of like a big map painting where you go around and fight different characters from Nintendo, or spirits of them, in kind of different situations and circumstances that can be, what's the word? Actually, it's a phrase, hair-tearingly, like, frustrating. Like man, some of these things are so annoying. Like if your power levels aren't right, or if your spirits don't match up and like have a type advantage over their spirit. And I will admire a little bit, or kind of say that, you know what, it's kind of fun that they say like, hey, we don't have this specific character, we don't have Geno in the game from Super Mario RPG, but on this certain level you have to beat Kirby, who's white, so he looks like Mallow. You have to beat Bowser, Peach, Mario, and is there somebody else? And then Sheik is supposedly is like Geno. Like Sheik is supposed to be Geno at the end of it. So they kind of try to make the colors match up. And they're like little ways to kind of like nod, say like, hey, you know, we didn't put this character in the game, but here's his spirit. And then once you beat this, you're going to get that cool, strong spirit that you can attach to yourself, and it'll give you a boost in a lot of different ways. Like it might, you know, make you immune to sleep or poison floors, or it might give you like a beam sword to start the match off with, which can be really useful when you're fighting multiple opponents. There's one time with Bowser that I hit like all 3 of these guys, and it was like a really hard level, and I just hit them all at the same time and just knocked them all. I was like, oh, thank goodness. So there's a lot of things like that. Or you might be fighting, like in that instance with Bowser, it was like you're fighting the legendary beasts from Pokemon, and I think it was like Falcon, Greninja, and like Pikachu or something like that, trying to represent like the 3 dogs, or the 3 beasts, which are Entei, Suicune, and Raikou. It's like, okay, I get what you're trying to do. I wish they were actually in the game, but it's fine. So you can go around and do that mode. That's one way to unlock characters, but also once you hop out of that mode, they'll have new challenger approach, or they'll do that new challenger after you play through just like regular matches, or if you play through the classic mode, which is just you fight 5 or 6 characters that they kind of pick specifically for your character to fight, and then you fight like a boss, which is typically the Master Hand and Crazy Hand. So kind of the old classic, like, you know, just a level on Final Destination, just trying to beat up the hands or whatever. So yeah, those are fun. They have like a little mode in there too where you get to collect like gold on the way out for points, which is fine. When you try to outrun a black hole, it just kind of, it scares me all the time. But yeah, so characters come fast because there are 74 included with the game. If you did pre-order it, or if you do buy it within this first amount of time and register it with the online stuff, you will get Piranha Plant as the 75th character, with 5 DLC characters to come after that. So 80 characters down the line, but still 74. It's hard to look at that roster and say like, that's not enough. I will say at first that I was one of the people, which I'm a greedy when it comes to Smash Brothers. But when they said it was going to be every character from all the games, I thought, oh, great. There's some that I like, but there's plenty that more so that I didn't. I was like, why do we need to bring Pichu back? Is this really the roster? But then they started adding more characters, and I got to say they're great. Incineroar is a little bit fun. I'm still learning how to use him, but he's pretty cool. King K. Rool, hilarious. What an insane joke of a character, but in a good way. He's serious, but like all of his stuff just seems like so wacky. His run animation, terrifying though. He just crawls along the ground. But he's like Bowser put with DDD, and it's just like, oh, it's all the kings together. And I really enjoyed that. I think he's really cool. Ridley's cool. Like all the characters are really, top tier. Like they didn't just say like, all right, just throw Isabelle in the game, whatever. Like they really took time to try and make each character specific and unique. Even Roy and Marth now, who were basically clones or echoes of each other, I still feel like there's enough of a difference, at least aesthetically and a little bit technically, with like their B, because like you charge B with Marth and he does like a stab, but like Roy's always had like the and he charges up and explodes everywhere, a big fireball. Yeah, man, it just in the game, I keep saying this, but it feels so good. It feels so good to play. It's just the movement of it all, the kinetic and frenetic energy of the fights makes it addicting, and you just like get sucked in. Because for me, it's like I try to like min and max my time, where I'm like, all right, I'll play like a few of these levels in World of Light, try to beat a few of these like bosses and stuff, or these kind of special characters, and then I'm going to get out and try to fight a new challenger, and then I'm going to go back in. Also, if you do screw up, I didn't know this, but if you do screw up fighting a new challenger for like the first time, there's a little door in the bottom right hand corner of the games and more section of the menu. Then you can go fight them again. If you lose that second time, though, then they're just gone for a bit. They'll show back up. Don't worry about it. Another more consistent way to unlock characters I found is World of Light, because they're typically a little easier to fight, and you can use like other things to equip yourself differently, and you can fight them multiple times. So like if you find, you know, Snake in there or Lucario or whomever, you can fight them multiple times and they will unlock that way, which is great. Oh, I also want to mention this. The bosses have been pretty sweet. Rathalos might have been my favorite one because I'm a big Monster Hunter World fan. And having that Rathalos, which Monster Hunter World is not on Nintendo Switch as of this recording, but the way that you fight it, you have to kind of track it down, and you finally kind of like force it to go to a certain area, which is like, okay, that's cute. But then when you get in the fight with it, they do drop items that allow you to trap it in the ground, just like Monster Hunter World does. It's like, oh, that's so good. And fighting it with Fox, with a gun? Oh, man, crazy, hilarious. Also, pro tip, if you want to do really well in these stamina battles, because sometimes they won't just be like, oh, it's one stock and with a percentage like classic Smash, they'll have you do a stamina battle. Equip a spirit that gives you more stamina, and then also increases, like, get one that's for your neutral B and play as Fox. Because what you can do is you'll get a little more stamina at the beginning of the fight, so instead of 120 HP, you might have like 140, 145. If they've got 160, you kite these people, you back up, and you use your little blaster, and you just go to town, because you'll watch their health just drop and plummet. It's a good strat, trust me, it's a good one. Also, another thing to consider as well, when you're picking out like your main spirit, look for ones that can be enhanced at level 99, because some, like, you'll have like one big spirit, and then you can equip up to 3 like smaller spirits, or they'll have like ones that, like, what's her name? Ashley. This is horrible. But Ashley is like a special spirit that takes up 3 slots, because she charges your final smash meter faster than anybody. Because in this game, if you want to have it on in like regular Smash, but in most of the World of Light stuff, you have a smash meter that just charges over time. So you want to have that up a lot, because, you know, you can do a lot of damage with it, and you can KO people if used properly. Typically, they only do like 16 or 20% like damage or percent, but some of them, like Bowser's Giga, oh man, if you get the Giga Bowser punch, oh my gosh, that can really save you in a fight, because he just appears behind him and you just line up a punch, and that one's nice because you get time to do it. Unlike Fox's, where you have to be right in front. Anyway, but I'm just saying that just look for a large spirit, because I've got like Groudon on mine. I don't know if he's good or not, but his attack power got to a certain level, like my power, because you have a power meter that you have to look at. So like, say I'm 6,000 power, I'm going to fight someone at 7,000 power. They're going to hit a little bit harder than I am. I'm not going to hit them for as much or whatnot. So you want to look for these guys that you can like evolve at level 99, because for Groudon, I was able to take him, put him back to level 1, but then he was going to be like stronger in the long run. So that's what I was looking at, because some of these fights, like if I'm right now, I was thinking it was like 7, maybe I'm like 8 or 9,000, but some of these really, really tough fights, they're like 13,000 power level. And sometimes you can win just because you've cheesed it correctly, or you just get really lucky. But a lot of times they're just desperately infuriating. Yep. I even beat one that felt like I beat a level in Cuphead, because it's very much like Cuphead, where it's like you get just so many, you just infinite tries, and you're just right back in, and you're just like, oh, that was quick, but I'm going to go again, and just get again. So keep that in mind. But also just remember, you can walk away from these fights. They don't like ever force you down a certain path. There's a lot of branching paths, and they all end up connecting to one another. But don't be afraid to just kind of step back and just like do something else, power up, and then maybe come back. There's other like training dojos and stuff to make your spirit stronger, or have them go on like little treasure hunts. Waste of time. A waste of time, pardon me. I wouldn't recommend doing those, because it's just like, yeah, you don't need to do it. Let's see what else. But there's like crazy amount of stuff in here. There's crazy amount of music. There's a crazy amount of stuff to look at. There's all these little stickers that pop up all the time about like little screenshots they took in the game of like little moments that have happened or like little moments they want you to see, and it's just like, wow. Yeah. It's not perfect, but it is really, really good. It's really, really fun. I can only imagine it's even better with more people or online. I think that it would only bring up the value of it right now. But for me, as a big Smash fan, someone who's loved this franchise, this might be one of the first video games that I was like truly obsessed with as a kid, because I just remember thinking about Kirby and his pile drive ability. Now I wanted to do that all the time. Just took the character off the screen. It was like Dragon Ball Z, and I didn't even watch Dragon Ball Z as a kid. Anyway, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. It's great. It's really good. It's so hard for me to not recommend it if you have a Switch. Pick it up. So much fun to do. So much single player stuff to do. It might not be as fun or as creative as, say, Subspace Emissary, but it's still really good. There you go. That's my Super Smash Bros. Ultimate review. We got one more to do. All right. One more review to do. How are we doing here? 40, 44. All righty, man. Okay. Moving on down the line. Moving on down the line. There we go. All right. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Assassin's Creed, as you can also tell here, man, I didn't even put these up like this just for tonight. They're up all the time. As you can tell, I'm a big fan of Assassin's Creed for anybody who's actually watching us right now. I've been playing since the beginning, which is crazy to me to think that that has been over 10 years now. And there's been just about one game every year. And I thought this was going to be the year they were going to skip, because a lot of us thought it was going to be. They did skip 1 year in between Unity and Origins. And that was kind of the thought going in, because Origins had sold like double than like Unity did, and they took a year off. So people thought, oh, maybe they'll just kind of start doing this now. But Ubisoft typically tends to make 2 or 3 of these games simultaneously. So I'm sure this one was in the works, and they're like, yeah, it's still going out this year because it's basically done, and we might as well send it out. Assassin's Creed Odyssey takes tons of cues from Origins. I think for the most part, its combat is just about the same. I don't know if the blocking mechanics have gotten any better, or the parry mechanics, but the RPG systems are still in place from Origins. Yeah, I mean, you're changing up your location a lot, because Origins was in Egypt, but now we are in Greece. So I guess we're predating that even, which didn't seem right to me, like timeline-wise. But you're playing as either Cassandra or Alexios. I pick Cassandra. I think a lot of people do. I didn't really check out Alexios too much, but Cassandra's voice acting and stuff was really good to me. I really enjoyed her, and she kind of had this Ezio charm, which I really appreciated. With Bayek back in Origins, I was like, oh, I don't know if I like this guy, but over time, I started to really enjoy him too. So they're getting better with their protagonists, which is great. This is nice. Or they're kind of hit and miss, I suppose, because Edward Kenway's great. Yeah, and then Ezio's good, and Connor sucked, and the guy from Unity, whose name I will always forget, he was not great either. Yeah. Anywho, despite all of that, one big thing that they added to this game to make it even more RPG-like are these dialogue options and these choices that you get to make. They're not huge, or they don't seem like they're super far-reaching. You know, you'll make choices for, you know, dialogue options, but also for character moments that will come back, and you'll see like these little, there'll be people standing, and they'll have like little arrows that kind of point off of them. And it'll be like, oh, like this is a person that you can talk to because you made a decision, and they're coming to like talk to you about that. So that you might talk to them, you might be like, oh, you got my father killed, or something like that. Usually not super far-reaching ramifications. But the rest of the game is pretty much how you remember it. They have added these new battles where you kind of can pit. It's like Athens versus Sparta. And you get to like, you can weaken one of these places before you actually get into these battles, these kind of like actual like larger form skirmishes with people. And then in these battles, what you're basically tasked with doing is like the smart way to do it is to kind of like look at there's like a little meter that shows like, you know, they're battling back and forth. You want to find and hunt down their like higher ups, like their captains. And once you do that, they'll kind of send out a boss for you to fight. And then if you destroy that person, then you kind of like have won, and then you can loot a little bit. But besides that, it's kind of your typical Assassin's Creed, at least moving forward from now, like compared to Origins. It's got this kind of like focus on exploration. One thing I do like about this at the beginning of the game, they said, you want to play exploration mode or kind of like a classic adventure mode? Classic adventure mode is like the straight up hold your hand, like the dots right over there, like go run that way. And the adventure or the exploration mode kind of, they'll give you some information about a quest. It'll be like, all right, this person likes to go here. They're kind of in this area and they're known to be like, it's on this fort. And you're like, okay, where is that? And then you bring up this huge map and you're like, okay, where the heck is this? And once you get close enough, it'll kind of pop there. So in the beginning for me, it was really tough because these games have always been so hand-holdy where they're just like, hey, go over here. Hey, go over here. Hey, go over here. So there's been a lot of things like that, or hunting down assassination targets in this game that I have not been used to, because it's like, whoa, okay. So they're changing those two big elements up a bit, which I appreciate, but it also adds a lot of time on there. And while it can be cool, it also can be frustrating because, for instance, if you're trying to find certain targets from this cult who are kind of out to get you because they see you as a threat, and they basically just want to enslave humanity. It's like the beginnings of the Templars, but they see you as a problem, and you kind of have to hunt these guys down. You have this big kind of web of intrigue to find them all. It's kind of like Ghost Recon Wildlands. You kind of have to like work your way up to find the person. But in order to find these guys, it'll be like, oh, this person, like, he works at a quarry, and he's usually there at night or something like that. You have to like help other people like with other little tasks around that area that might have nothing to do with this person. And then you'd be like, hey, do you know about like Frank the Snake? And they're like, oh yeah, we know about Frank the Snake, but help me out first and I'll tell you more. It's like, oh, okay, like I just wish I could like go there and find old Frank and then take care of take care of it myself. Another thing that's been kind of weird to me, I like but also don't like, are the kind of the forced feelings on stats. Like they really force the statistics on you, and by that I mean in old games the combat was very like you just hit a guy and they're dead, and a lot of people didn't like that because their people just would circle up, they'd basically just wait to die. I understand that, but now it's like a lot of these guys who will be higher level than you, and they often tell you to not go after people who are way higher level than you, because they'll just, instead of a level number above their head, it'll just be a red skull. They will like take you out in 1 or 2 hits, and you could stab them, you could jump them without them knowing and stab them in the neck, and it'll do like, if this is a whole bar, it does like this much damage. It's like 5%. It's like, what? Like, it just seems so not Assassin's Creed because it's so hard to assassinate people, especially in the early game. It's like, oh my gosh. And another thing you have to keep in mind is that this game does not have a hidden blade. You have the spear tip of Leonidas that you use, and eventually you can like throw it, and you can like chain this weird thing where it's like you see a guy kind of a distance away, you can throw it, and you kind of like teleport to him and like stab him through, and then you can throw it at somebody else. Even if that doesn't kill him, you can like kind of chain it and bounce it back and forth between them. But yeah, it does feel weird not being able to assassinate people and having it kind of based on your level and trying to level up your weapon and stuff, because if you have a weapon you like, you can actually level it up to your current level and keep doing that. It just, some of the fights seem like you're just stabbing meat bags for a long time, and it is not really engaging. And the combat, while it might be a little bit better, different, it does retain that kind of Origins jankiness to it where it doesn't really feel like you're hitting things. Like once in a while, if you do like the perfect counter and then you hit with a big attack, you're like, okay, I knocked this guy down. And if you do have the Spartan kick and you're like at their level or maybe even 1 level under them, you can actually like really, you can like send them flying a pretty good distance. And that's a really good tool or ability to use if you're on like a cliff and you're dealing with someone who's got a ton of health, because then you'll do like all their health in 1 hit, because you'll like knock them off, like a rock like face or like down a cliff, and it'll be like 15,000 damage or 30,000 damage. You're like, well, that's good because I was only hitting for like 200. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But if they're higher level than you to a certain extent, you do that kick and they just kind of stumble back a little bit, and you can't knock them off the edge. Even if they're on the edge, you like kick them and they're just like, nope. Yeah, but they basically kind of attack in 2 different ways. It's mostly just like regular attacks, which you can block, parry, and then there's like these orange unblockable attacks. It's fine. I don't know. I wish they could figure out their combat a little bit more and kind of find like a point in between, because I miss the days of like being an assassin where even in the beginning I could actually drop someone with like one well-placed, assassin strike or assassination. Now it's like I can do a sneak attack and like drop on them and kind of hit them, and they're like, whoa. It's like, yeah. I'm not personally a big fan of that, but that's just me. The world is crazy. It's huge. We're living in a time, if you like open world games like I do, that there's just so much to do. I've dumped like 40 plus hours into this game, and there's still so much more to see. And I don't want to, kind of get into the spoilers of like the actual plot, but it's fine as far as that goes. And the world, is kind of like the main thing. Again, I do see the origins, in it though. Like when you play it, it's like when you see these bases, you're like, yeah, I've seen this base before. Like you're starting to see things like, yep, I've seen that. And kind of getting the alarm called on you really sucks, because in this one you can't just like dispatch like, 2 or 3 guys and be done with it. It's like, oh no, somebody's gonna go light the beacon fire. I forgot to do that before, because I'm just thinking of like, I'm just looking around and trying to understand how many of these guys there are, and they're all like 2 or 3 levels higher than I am, which is so weird for me still in an Assassin's Creed game to see that, because in the past it was like, okay, there's like a few of them. Well, I can do this, but I just have to be smart about it. I have to really be like, I'm killing that guy, killing this guy, and then killing that guy in like 5 seconds. You can't do that anymore, at least not at my level, and they give you so many quests. Oh my god. Like when you accept a quest, and this happens a lot, it'll be like multiple quests accepted. And you're like, what do you mean? It's like there's just so much to do. Not all of it's great, and not all of it's really memorable, which is really sad. I see the potential in this game, and I have enjoyed it when I played it, but a lot of my time has been just like trying to follow the crypt path to some degree, but they really want you to do a bunch of the side missions. That's why they kind of like they don't cap your leveling, but the world does tend to scale with you, or at least it seems like it at certain points, which gets so annoying, because you're like, oh, I want to like come back to a camp and be like 10 levels higher than it, because that's what an RPG is about. It's like, okay, if I can't beat you now, I'll do some stuff, and then I'll come back, and then I'll destroy you. That hasn't really been the case for me yet. I've just been lucky to like get the abilities where it's like critical backstab, because then you can like go up and like hold the Y button, and then you can like just put the spear like through their back, and it doesn't always kill everybody, and that's sometimes hard to know too, because it'll show you like on a meter how much damage you're going to do, but it doesn't always show you what you're going to do as far as like abilities go. So for that move, or the one where you throw the spear, it's like, I hope this kills them, but sometimes it'll just like hit them in the arm, and they'll just like, oh, and it's like, no, which can be very frustrating. So keep that in mind. But it's, again, very much like Origins, where you have your eagle and you scout it out. Icaros, he looks around and you can kind of ping stuff on there. And it's a lot of just same camp. It's like, okay, go kill their captain and their pole mark. You can get like their treasure chests, and then you have to like set fire to their supplies. And then you do that to all these different places, which can weaken the strength of either Sparta or Athens in the area. And then if you go and decide to do those bigger like battle sequences, then you kind of pick the side you want to be with, which defending, I think, is supposed to be easier and attacking is harder. So you want to like really put it in your favor, depending on which side you want to be on. Yeah, like I said, Cassandra's great. It is kind of weird though in this game. It is very much like, it's one of those things where it's like an older, kind of almost like Mass Effect in a way, RPG, where you have these dialogue options and like everybody's into you. Like it doesn't matter who they are. They're all just like, oh, I want you so badly. And like you can like turn people down all day, all night, but there's still people who are just like, oh yeah, like I'm so into you. So like it just is weird. I want one person in one of these games where you make an advance on them and they're like, no dude, or no miss, no thanks. Like it seems really weird to me. Like Cassandra has like no real flaws as a character. There's nothing really she's trying to be like better at. She's a wonderful character. I really love her, and her voice acting is so good, but it just seems weird to me. She's just like, she's the best fighter and everybody loves her, and there's like the only people who hate her are like this crazy like sadistic fiendish cult. It's like, okay, yeah. But yeah, I would say Assassin's Creed Odyssey is an 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. I was almost going to say 8 out of 5. That would have been weird. 8 out of 10 because while it kind of carries on the stuff that Origins did that I did like, it should progress. It should be better. The combat should be better. They really should refine how the leveling and the quest system works, because it feels pretty tedious to me at times. Whereas some other open world games I played this year, it doesn't feel as grindy, even in other RPGs, where I'm like, oh my gosh, like this game really wants me to go out of my way and spend just like 10 hours just grinding. And I get that people enjoy that sort of thing, but I guess maybe from my certain perspective of playing something like Dragon Quest XI recently, where I'm like, yeah, I've done this, like I don't want to do this anymore. And Assassin's Creed has never really been about that, but It's just how it's evolving. So if you enjoyed Origins, I would say you should probably pick this up. This game is easily worth the price, I think, because there's so much stuff in it, and it's good. Also, there's the naval combat, which returns. It's not as in-depth or as complex as you find in like Black Flag or Rogue, but it's still pretty good. The sea shanties, I love the freaking sea shanties. It gives me that Black Flag vibe again, where I'm like, okay, you got your boat stuff, and I really enjoy that sort of thing. And there's so much to explore. There's so many caves and underwater places that you can look into. So the world is crazy. There's a lot going on as far as that's concerned, but I think kind of just I'm so sick of the story, especially the modern day story stuff. Oh God, get that out of here! Every time they cut back to, I'm like, no, like why haven't we learned? Even though there is a little Splinter Cell nod in one of those modern day story things, where I was like, Splinter Cell, come on, Eve Gimo, tell me. Yeah, so there you go. 8 out of 10. It's solid, could be better, but it's still a pretty good game. All things considered, I'd say. That's what I'd say. Yes, there you go. Assassin's Creed. I forgot to make that timestamp for that, but oh well, I'm just going to take a guess. We're just going to take a guess. Hopefully that's right later. All right, well, just because, again, it is me, we're going to kind of wrap it up here pretty quickly here. So we get to move into that segment of the show that I like to call Timekillers. That's right. It is time for Timekillers. It's the games we've been playing, the movies we've been watching, the TV shows we've been viewing. And let's see. All right, well, I know it was pretty recent that we recorded the last show, just kind of a little bit behind the scenes there. But I saw Aquaman, like I talked about there. I've been playing a little bit of Call of Duty Blackout, just a smidge with Joe and Haley and Drew. It's Call of Duty Black Ops 4's Battle Royale mode. I'll be completely honest with you guys. Joe loves this mode so much, and I want to love it too. I just don't love Battle Royale. And a lot of it is because, like, I feel there's no progression, only maybe intrinsically. But every drop is different. And maybe that's the fun part, is every drop's different, every game is different, every, where you find guns right away. You might die right away, you might kill someone right away, or whatever. But a lot of it's just like running and terror and bad teamwork. And like that's not fun for me. Like, because when we fight against other teams of 4, they're like a coordinated pack of like velociraptors or whatever, like wolves, because like we're like, okay, one of us has a shot on them, but what we should be doing is all of us should be aiming at that same person at that moment, and we all shoot like once and kill them. But no, it's like, we get one shot and then their whole team's like, and they all just like run at us and just kill us all. And the problem is it's harder to get good at the gunplay if you're not shooting guns a lot, because in this game mode you don't shoot guns very often, because the way we play is very quiet and you like don't get to do that. So I prefer team deathmatch. I don't have to run from a stupid blue wall all the time. And sure, it's die, kill, die, kill, die, But sometimes you have a really fun match, and I like the operators. I like the special little abilities you get, which you don't get in Blackout. So for instance, I usually have been playing as Nomad, where he can plant little mines. You can kind of like make a little laser trip mine, and people run through it, boom, they blow up. And once in a while, you run around a map, and they'll just be like 125 points because it was like mesh mine kill, and you're like, all right. So I enjoy that, and then eventually you get to summon your pet, your dog, who runs in his little pity and goes around, taking people out, which is a lot of fun. And then they'll just be like, your dog has left the AR, it's been neutralized, but it's coming back. Don't worry, it's not dead. They keep the same name, whose name I forget, Juno, something like that. I don't know. Anyway, but then on top of that, you still have your kill streak rewards. So you still can get like your UAV, you can get like these Hellfire missiles, you can get like this like sniper team and a helicopter. So there's lots of stuff like that. And then also, while you're using your guns like level up, and then you get access to these other different attachments, which I appreciate, because it's like, all right, hey man, you like this like assault rifle, this KN, which is a lot like an AK-47. Well, you got to keep using it a lot until you can unlock the actual suppressor for it. So it's like, by the time you get that suppressor, not only are you going to be really like quiet, but you will also have a very good intimate working knowledge of this weapon. It's like, cool. And the health system is different. So like when you actually do damage to people, you don't just heal over time. You have to like heal yourself, and there's a little charge for that, like a recharge timer. And like the hits feel so good. Treyarch always does the best job. I really still like Black Ops 1, and playing some of these old maps in this one is like really fun for me. So it's like, okay, it's a throwback in that way. And you can tell the old maps were not designed for some of these guys, because okay, that guy seems really cheap on this one. But then, getting like these, like, it'll be like double kills, like all these little medals start popping up if you avenge someone and you killed like the best person on the team, like Avenger, Kingslayer, Savior. It's like dong, dong, dong. It's like, oh, cool, cool, cool. Yeah, it's like all this stuff. So it's like the dopamine rush, definitely there. Another one they just added is Zero. She might be my new favorite too, because she has this little EMP she can throw out every once in a while. It's kind of like her minor special ability. It disrupts enemies. It basically takes away like their ability. I don't know if it takes away their ability to also use like their health and stuff, but it takes away like red dots, things like that, technology. And then her special ultimate ability is she brings up this thing called the ice pick. It's like a big suitcase, and she's a hacker, and you can hack everybody like individually. But then on their team, they like lose their HUD and their ability to heal and do all this stuff. And that is really nice because on top of that, before that, there's like 3 levels. The first level is like all their gear. And then like the second level is like maybe, I don't know if it's like kill streak stuff. So like the UAV and stuff. But then also you can hack like Nomad's mines. That can be yours too. And then you hack each of them individually. But the problem is you like sit and you're like holding this button, like hold X to hack or whatever. And you see these little like things charge up for like each picture. So it's going one at a time. So if they find you, you might not like have been able to hack all the actual people if you do it at the wrong time. However, if you do it at the right time, you can like hack their UAV and then you hack everybody else. And so when people are getting kills, you're getting a lot of points because kill streaks in this game are tabulated a little differently. It's not just kills, it's points. So you can get a ton of points because it'll be like, hey, somebody on your team killed someone on their team using a UAV you just hacked, and they were also hacked. So you're just getting like all these points, so you can like go up on your kill streaks really quickly because you're like, oh man, I'm being very efficient. That's why I like these 2 particular characters. They kind of have like set it and forget it kind of things, especially Nomad. Just put the mines down, let it go, or let the dog go. And kind of follow it and try to help it out. And sometimes, man, I've had it where that dog can just rip through a team and they just don't know what to do with that. I think it was on Summit, which I love that map, old Black Ops map. But with Zero, it's just fun hacking people, and it's like just typing it out and just like, oh, cool, I'm like hacking them, and it's really detrimental. I've had it happen to me plenty, and I was like, man, that sucks. So yeah, I really like her, and there's just like little differences that make each character different. The pick 10 system is back, where you basically get to pick. You have your main gun, and then you have to choose a bunch of like perks or equipment things on there, and each of those things takes up one of like the 10 little slots. So you could either like have 2 like primary weapons that have like 1 attachment each and like a few little perks, or you can have like 1 gun with all the attachments and like nothing else. Like, so you got to figure out what's best for you. I typically run Dead Silence, Ghost, and this like recharge ability for my special abilities, so I can use my mines, or I can use my little explosive things a lot faster, or get my dog back out, or get the ice pick going and start hacking people. I like having those little things because I like those little nuances, and they make me feel like kind of special. Makes me feel special. So yeah, but Blackout and Black Ops, there's so much in Black Ops 4. It is kind of sad there isn't a campaign anymore, but I can see why it's not really that big of a deal. And between Blackout, which I play a little bit of, the Team Deathmatch, which I played a lot of, and the Zombies, which I haven't even touched yet, there's still a lot there. So if you like shooters, I would say this is easily one of the best ones of the year. It feels good. Treyarch always knows what they're doing as far as like just the feeling of these games. They always just like the gunfire it's just on point. It's just always been on point, and I really enjoy it. So I would definitely check it out if you're at all interested. But if you're kind of like, man, they don't have a campaign, it's not worth it to me, wait till it drops like $30. Then you just hop right in. Hop right in, that's what I say. All right. Well, believe it or not, everybody. Wow. It's already been an hour. Look at that. We're going to move right into community feedback and questions. So this week, I just wanted to pull one question from our Discord, which is great because we get so many good questions. And this one I've been thinking about a lot. This one comes in from Missile Mage, who's always asking great questions. He said, what you said about Yu-Gi-Oh! A few weeks also gave me the idea for this question. I love TV shows, and I also love stylized video games. And while there are many beloved shows that have already been made into games, are there any TV shows that you would like to be made into a certain style of game? He said, I'm thinking Avatar in Breath of the Wild style, or Yu-Gi-Oh! In the Persona style. Yeah, I can't get the thought of Yu-Gi-Oh! In the Persona style out of my mind. So that's the one I would pick. I hate to take Missile Mages because this is such a freaking good one. So please, you guys got to leave this in the comments below too, because this is the question I'm asking you guys. Like, what TV show would you like to see be made into a game? I think Avatar in Breath of the Wild style is also amazing. Not only would it just be cool to be in like an open world Avatar game, but to have the ability to bend all the elements, man, you could have so much fun with not only combat but puzzle solving and just kind of like very Breath of the Wild, where it's like, okay, I want to make this thing go over here, but I can do it in like 5 different ways. That would be amazing. That would be so cool. Even though it'd be kind of cheap because once in a while you'd just be like, I just made fire, just made fire. Yu-Gi-Oh. I want to take this Yu-Gi-Oh idea and kind of I want to flesh it out a bit. So if you haven't played Persona 5 or any of the Persona games, you typically kind of have like a dual life in that you are typically like a young kid in Japan who has like a normal school day, but then also you kind of moonlight as something different. Persona 5 is the one I know the best, and that's where you go into like a demon world, kind of like an alternate reality that's just parallel to ours. I want to take that idea and go really crazy with it. I think you play as Yugi, and then you're only Yu-Gi-Oh when you're actually in, the other world, or when you're dueling, if you're doing like shadow duels and stuff. But I'm saying you got to pick up a job, like you're working at Gramps' shop, you're talking with people, you're always like looking for a fight, maybe on the as far as like a duel would go back at like the schoolyard and stuff, or maybe there's bullies after you, and that's when Joey and Tristan kind of come up into your defense, and you can like train Joey, and maybe that's how like you learn the game is the tutorials, like you're training him. He's like, like what are these monster cards? Like, be like, I think this could be really fun. But then also have another mode where you play as Kaiba, and you basically have to like live the life of a CEO, and you're like, I'm a CEO of a gaming company, and you're like buying stocks and stuff, and you're like, this is so intense, and it's like very different than like your school Yugi like world where you're like, I didn't really study for this test. Where Kaiba's like, oh my gosh, like our stock prices are going down. Like that would be wonderful to me. And then also just like building your deck, I think that would also be cool. Like you might not need to do like the classic like this is Yugi's deck, he has to use this. I think it would be cool to like build your own as well, and maybe that would play into it. Maybe you wouldn't necessarily be Yugi or Kaiba. You could also have a mode where you just played as just like a regular person, or there's an online version where there's like tons of people living in this world together, and you're just kind of trying to like make your, commute to school or to your job or whatever. I think you could get really, really crazy with this game and just have so much fun. Oh my gosh, just challenges in the street and dueling all the time and trying to save the world, and then also just trying to, make it home in time for curfew or supper. Like, oh man, I think there's a lot of possibility in that one. So this Mage, I'm sorry I'm stealing that one from you, but I just can't stop thinking about it. It is like a perfect freaking fit. Perfect flipping fit, man. Oh, so good. It's so good. Excellent. All right, guys. Well, you know what? I think that's enough for me. I've talked for like an hour straight. Yeah. I did it. Anyway, if you guys ever have a topic or a question for the show, all you have to do is tweet the hashtag Critical Podcast, and you can tweet it at our official account, which is at Go Critical, and that's with a capital G or a capital C. Or you can tweet at me personally. I'm at JimmyGood013. Tweet at me. I want to know if you made it to the end of this podcast. Just tweet me the hashtag 2018 baby, or just baby, hashtag 2018 baby. Just that. There we go. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to support us, though, consider checking out our Twitch channel, which I'm over there on Mondays and Fridays typically. If the internet doesn't die out on me like it did today, which was like, no. Yeah, I'm over there all the time, so you should stop on by. It's a fun time. But also you can check out our Spreadshirt, get some cool merchandise. I just got Joe a hat. I know Simon out there, he's wearing it. It's all citrus shirt, which I like to say on the streams, which means it's all good. It's like it's all citrus. It's all wonderful. But that's a good way. Maybe a great gift this time of the year, even if it's past Christmas. Just get it for yourself. Tweet me a picture of it if you do. I would love to see it. I want to know what the quality's like. So yeah, that's cool. Let's thank some people. We'll get to you guys in just a second. Now, you're listening, but don't worry, it's coming. I'll start with This Is Daleb for the intro outro music. We love you, Daleb. Thank you so much. Also, Jorn Ever is the guy who does pretty much all the art you see here on the channel. Jorn is fantastic, and you should check him out at Niraj28 or at Jade Circle Art over on Twitter. He's working on a project right now, and here's a brief synopsis. When David opens a mysterious box that transforms his arm into an alien weapon, he at first uses it for good to right the wrongs of his high school. But as more of his body is transformed, he finds that playing God comes with its own set of new, self-destructive perils. It's like Venom meets Chronicle meets Blue Beetle. Good stuff. But if you want to support Jorn and you want to support us at the same time, I would ask that you check out patreon.com/critical reviews. Even $1 a month, which is $12 a year, which is one ticket to Aquaman. Which justified that price for Aquaman. But that can really help us. And basically, what this money goes to is to getting better equipment for us, getting kind of nicer things that make everything better and prettier and sound better and better lighting and all of these things. We're basically just trying to build up funds to do that because this stuff, it doesn't come cheap. And this is not a job for any of us yet. This is a hobby. For a lot of people who probably see us on here and they look at our Patreon, know that like this is not something that we use for like income. Like this is just mostly used for getting copies of the games because we don't get review copies, or getting into movies to talk about them, or just the equipment and stuff. This is not something we're not like paying out or anything like that. So one day I would love it. I would love it if I could do this for work. But right now it is just not in the cards because there's just not enough money, not only to just like even support just me, but let alone Joe or Levi, like on top of this, or even Katie, who does some work on the side here for us. So I would love to get to that point. And if you guys can help in any small way, or if you can just share us around, that is huge. And for even $1, you get your face drawn by Yorin for this card game we're trying to make, which that's already like a crazy deal. Like the fact that he's like taking his time to draw these things out and like make them specific to these people, even at $1 is nuts. For $5 and up, we have different tiers. So we have like the conscript tier, which is like $5. That's people get the podcast day early. $10 and up, if you're a mercenary, you get to choose who Stephen Purifoy, the guy who does our art for Mono e Mono, you get to pick who fights whom. Like that is really cool. Like usually I'll give like one character, so I'm like, all right, it's Deathstroke. You guys get to pick the other person he gets to fight. So stuff like that, like and $25 and up, we just kind of change that around. That's going to be like the movie commentary one. So for like you guys get to pick what movies I'm going to review or like do a commentary of for that month. There's a lot of fun stuff. And even at the $100 tier, which it does seem like a lot, but if you are someone who wants to support the show in a huge way, or you want to kind of advertise on something, I had a buddy do it for a while, Jonathan Larson, if you guys remember him. But basically, we'll put that picture up, talk about you for a little bit, whatever you want to say each week. But that kind of stuff really helps us, and it just helps as a barometer too, to show us like who is really excited about this sort of thing. And I know a lot of people can't especially around this time of the year, they can't really donate time or money to something like this. Totally get it, totally understand it. But if you're like, if you want to see us do bigger and better things, this is one really good way to do it. And even if it's not $1, even if it's not a like or retweet, just tweet at us and let us know how we're doing. Let us know, because we want to know who's listening out there. Who comment here on YouTube or just wherever. Just hit us up in the Discord. We want to know. And also we want to know who you want us to try and go after as far as collaborations and stuff. Like if you want to see us talk with more people from the Easy Allies, then we'll do it. Or if you want to see us talk with somebody from another sect of YouTube or whatever, we can do that too. Or get like Rob Plays back on, or Ivy Winter or Christine, like you have them back on. It's nice to know which guests you like or which guests we should go after. And I'm not opposed to going after like Tom Cruise or Dwayne Johnson. I will tweet at them. Just, you tweet them both first. You tweet at me and tweet at them, like same tweet, and then I'll retweet it and like it, and we'll talk, and we'll start to get a thread going, because together there's nothing that we can't do, baby. There's nothing we can't do. Yeah, but there you go. But lastly, I want to thank everybody who's here. I'm asking for money. I'm always asking for that. But one thing I don't always ask for is your time. And I appreciate anyone who listens to this, because there's like a bajillion other podcasts out there that you can watch, you can listen to. They're higher quality. They have crazy guests. They have all this and that. But you're here with us, especially near the beginning. But believe it or not, we're coming up on, oh my gosh, Critical Review started in 2015. We started doing the podcast. This is the 144th podcast, 144 weeks ago. So think about it like that. Every week. And for the people who've been there from the beginning, and I know a few of you, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Never hesitate to let us know what you think of the show, how you think it could be better. I'm always trying to think of ways to make it better because we're on Google Hangouts here, and it doesn't always show the best video quality, which sucks because it'll be like, oh, we all have HD cameras, but it doesn't show in 1080p, and I'm like, so I'm trying to figure out ways around that won't make my computer explode. A lot of people seem to do Skype, and they kind of do like multiple boxes. Maybe we'll have to try to figure out something like that in the new year. But we're looking into things like better lighting, like green screen stuff. A lot of this stuff I was just asking for Christmas because my family's like, you got to get something, otherwise we're just going to get you crap. And I was like, all right, we'll try to do something that maybe will boost the channel up a little bit. But please let us know about that. Also, let me know about the reviews. I know I've been doing them a little bit differently just because I've been so pressed for time. But if people like the booth style review and discussion, I'll do more of that. So I just want to know. You just got to let me know. Let me know. All right. But thank you. Because without you guys being here, we wouldn't exist. We wouldn't. Like, if it was just like no one's watching, no one's listening, nobody cares about the streams, nobody really wants to be part of this, we wouldn't make this stuff. Like, I wouldn't make this stuff because I am at the heart and center of everything Critical Reviews does. Like, everything you see on this channel, be it a review, a podcast, a vlog, anything, I do it. It's all me. So we are a team, but like 95% of that team is good old Jim. So if you're like, okay, what's the through line between all these crazy different things that you do? It's me. I'm the through line. Hello. And I appreciate you. I really do, because there's a hodgepodge of things on this channel, and I love doing it. I love kind of going after everything. We're not just hyper specified on one thing, which we'd probably be doing better, sub-wise and all that stuff if we were. But I don't want to do that because I want to do this. I want to cover the things I'm passionate about. And this is a hobby for me, a hobby I would love to turn into a profession. If it doesn't, that's fine. I can find and do other work, and that's totally fine. But I will still always try to make Critical Reviews a priority, regardless of what I do. So never forget that, all right? I'm always going to do my best to make sure that CR stays the way that it is, but also adapts and overcomes, because I say that a lot, but I really mean it. I want to learn and grow with the channel and be smarter about how we approach things. If we find something like the Super Smash Brothers videos that do well, make another one. Like, just see what people like. If people get angry at you, that's okay, because at least people notice you. Like, you got to do these sorts of things just to get noticed on here. So, yes, I want all the feedback, though. Don't hesitate. But thank you one last time. You guys are amazing. For people who are our patrons, people who are subscribing with $5 on Twitch every month, for people who are buying merchandise, for people who are just here listening to this, going to streams, doing free things, liking and sharing and retweeting, like, that stuff is so helpful. And from the bottom of my heart, I do appreciate it. And 2018 was a crazy freaking year. I almost did a year-end review or year-end review video for this podcast. I was like, oh my gosh, no, we had so many guests, and so I traveled to both coasts, and I was like, oh no, it'll be a whole thing. So yes, basically, let me know what you like about the show. Who should we get back on the show? All that good stuff. And share us around if you could. That'd be great. Either way, thank you guys for just listening to me yammer on and on. 2019 is going to be a crazy year. I really feel it. 2018 was really nuts, especially for games. But 2019, oh boy, there's a lot going on in the first few months too. Yeah, there's a lot. Anyway, I love you guys. Thank you. Hugs to all of you. And just remember to adapt and overcome. And we'll see you next time.